Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Franchise Pearson, and welcome again to my channel. It is April 23rd of 2026. I have 10:07 in the a.m. And let's say it together. Praise our Heavenly Father, from whom all blessings flow. Lord, we thank you for another day that you have made. Let us be glad in it. We appreciate everything you've done for us. Thank you for sending your only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. And Lord, you sent your Holy Spirit, which dwells amongst us. And as we go and we travel and we journey one more day, send your angels, because we await that call. People, for a while, I didn't sleep well last night, and that's not something typical. If I have a dream, it's a dream. But last night was one of those nights where I just couldn't get it together. And I realized in my spirit that I cheat you guys by not disclosing everything that I have seen over the decades. I brought you guys two videos last night. One, the mission from Jesus. Let me make myself perfectly clear. Within, I talked about the responsibility of a content creator and weeded out all the noise, and that I have trained journalistic eyes because I'm out of that field. I'm just not a content creator. I'm someone who was in the business of journalism. And what I saw from the 70s all the way till now, I can compare. And like you, when you get older, it's one thing to read it in the history books, it's one thing to go to school, but when you live it, when you actually live those times, and you start or begin to see it again, there's no denying it. So the second video I brought was, he must go. With every passing day, President Trump brings the economy to ruin. The greatest betrayal in U.S. history in relation to oil and the Strait of Hormuz. Trump went one up about a week and a half ago on Iran. They were blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Now Trump has decided to do that. Either way, it's devastating for our economy. And so again, I couldn't sleep last night because I'm like, Pearson, you were sick for a few days, so my research kind of, took a back seat, which is cool. And then God had me, fry some other fish in terms of news stories. And Debbie Ruhr, she helped me out by sending me information, and I did a video, thank God, and it went into other things. So I can no longer wrestle with my conscience as a human being, as a Christian, being that I experienced the Jimmy Carter moment, and being I have studied the recessions, right, and studied the Depression, and I lived the recession of the 70s, and arguably we've had about two since then. So I will, about every 3 months, do an economic video with extensive, more research. And today is what I want to do. I want to do it. These aren't sexy videos because, let's face it, the name of the game when you're on YouTube is not just to inform people, but everybody has an economic base they want to achieve so they can be comfortable. I'm no different. So here it is. Trump announced late last night and through his press secretary, and then this morning, all the news networks are chirping the same thing, of course. What he has said is that he's in no rush to close this deal with the peace talks. In my mind, translated, And evidently, that's why I couldn't sleep last night. God must have been preparing me for this. And I'm crying inside as I'm speaking to you. There's no tears coming out of my eyes, but I'm seasoned. And I know what it means. Being that Trump is in no rush to close this deal, and Iran or whatever representatives that they have working, quote unquote, with Trump to get these peace talks mended or healed, they're in no rush. What it means is that they are gradually collapsing the global economy. I am not naive to think that there aren't representatives on both sides in relation to America and Iran. Yes, I do believe in my heart that they might call it Iran as a problem, but there are people working over there hand in hand in lockstep with Donald J. Trump, and they got the same playbook. They just employ the strategy and the science of gradualism. And they're hoping that we're ignorant enough or too busy or we can't connect the dots. And this is why I have been more bold the last few months and told you that there are people on social media, I do believe, which work for these powers. And their job is to entertain you, give you just enough information to keep you close to their bosom, so you can think that you're on the up and up. But the true analysis is in the numbers. The true analysis speaks from history. The true analysis is that when you watch, no matter what TV station it is or content creator, if they're not breaking that thing down with the true numbers and relevant numbers, people, you're really not getting the news. You're being, well, deceived, because that's called power, when you omit what's really going on. But you know, every day when you pay your bills, you know that something's wrong. So let's get into this thing. There is a video out called I Pet Goat 3. In I Pet Goat 3, you have a American eagle that's flying. And then you have someone with a bow shooting at the eagle. And then in time, the eagle shot and there it lands. Then that same person goes after the New York Stock Exchange, the World Bank, New York. And he taking a sword to cut off the head of it. And then they succeed. This is where we're at. Many of you all have heard about the phoenix bird that goes and rises to a great height. Then it goes through 4 cycles of winter, spring, summer, and fall. What changed the climate where that eagle or that glorious bird falls, and then once it falls, it hits the earth, it's remolded and comes back into something else? Well, to me, that's depicted in the Harry Potter movie. There's a bird there. And before you know it, the bird, it begins to burn up. And Harry is mystified as to what's happening with the bird. It's going through the transformation. Then the bird turns into ashes. But then the bird begins to come back. It begins to come back and it reforms. This is the plan for the national and the international economy. Now, I want to take you back. George Bush, who was president during 9/11, one of the things which is not talked about after 9/11, one of the first things he said was go shopping. Buy, buy, buy. That's what he said. George Bush said go shopping because he understands the economy. Why did President Bush tell us to go out and shop? After 9/11, George Bush said go shopping because he knew that if we focused on the atmosphere of fear and terror, that it would bring the economy into a space which they didn't intend. 9/11 was already enough, and in my humble opinion, that was caused. And just like this situation in the Middle East is being caused. But just like I said last night, the Jimmy Carter administration was a rehearsal. So was 9/11. I want you to think of this moment as a combination of both. But yeah, we got to go shopping locally, like I've been talking about. Now, I want you to hear Trump in no rush to secure the deal. This is what came out early this morning, all over the news, not just Fox, everywhere. He's in no rush.
To Operation Epic Fury, President Trump revealing his timeline to Fox News for peace talks with Iran.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon is reportedly warning Congress that it could take as long as 6 months to clear the Strait of Hormuz of mine.
They revealed it's going to take up to 6 months, possibly, to clear the mines in the Strait of Hormuz. With the pace that we're on 6 months from now, you understand what I'm looking at now?
Really? Brian Yennis is live in Tel Aviv with the very latest. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Well, this is now day 10 of the U.S. blockade of ships to and from Iranian ports. And we're now seeing evidence here that this blockade is extending far beyond just the Middle East. CENTCOM says so far 31 ships have been turned away or blocked because of this blockade. And new this morning, we now know that 3 of those ships were Iranian oil tankers that were blocked in Asian waters thousands of miles away from the Strait of Hormuz. And one of those ships included an Iranian supertanker with 2 million barrels of crude oil on board. Now, these 3 interceptions come days after the U.S. boarded and seized 2 other ships. The U.S. is targeting Iran-linked oil tankers. It's costing Iran's economy about $500 million a day. The White House says it's prepared to continue this blockade for as long as needed. President Trump tells Fox there is no rush and no time frame to end the war.
We're waiting to hear back from the Iranian regime. The fact that they cannot send a unified message yet, which is why the president decided to extend the ceasefire, just shows how effective Operation Epic Fury truly was, because there's a lot of internal division over there. The president understands that, and so we await their response. But the president...
They have to sell this thing as Iran being the problem, when in my humble opinion, the playbook is to destroy both the national and the international economy. From my understanding, between 120 to maybe 140 ships a day were going through the Strait of Hormuz prior to the war. Now you're lucky if you get 10. That is crippling the world economy. This is what I was talking about last night in my video. And like I said, evidently that's why I wasn't sleeping well last night, because God knew they were going to report this today. But I'm going to break it down to you and let you know. Don't just look at this thing as militarily. This is economics. This is straight up economics. This is what they need to be responsible for, responsible with as journalists. They keep bringing on these generals and these captains and whatever military people giving you analysis day to day as to what's going on, when they should have an economist in that seat interviewing them. Because that's what this is about. This is about economy, okay? And it's time that content creators, not just on YouTube, but everywhere, we need to be more responsible. and forget about the views and just tell it like it is, because we're repeating 9/11 and we're repeating the Jimmy Carter administration. Now, the word no rush, words no rush come out to 4/1. How long have I been talking about 4/1? April Fools. From what? 95. The 95th day of the year is 45. Trump, April Fools. God won't let you sleep when he want to speak to you, okay? No rush to secure the deal.
Period. President Trump revealing his timeline to Fox News for peace talks with Iran, all while the Navy maintains its blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
And U.S. forces have intercepted 3 Iranian oil tankers in Asian waters. They're trying to round up that so-called ghost fleet.
Lucas Tomlinson is live at the White House with the very latest. Hey, Lucas.
Good morning, Ainsley. Good morning, gentlemen. Right now, officials say the Iran war is at a standoff. The blockade remains in place. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed. President Trump says there is no expiration to the ceasefire, telling our own Martha McCallum on the phone, quote, "There is no time pressure on this, that the 3 to 5 day window reported earlier today is false. The blockade scares them even more than the bombing. They've been bombed for years, but the blockade they hate." The Washington Post reporting, even if the shipping lanes are open in the Strait, quote, "it could take 6 months to fully clear the Strait of Hormuz of mines deployed by the Iranian military, and any such operation is unlikely to be carried out until the U.S. war with Iran ends," the Pentagon has informed Congress.
People, that's almost a guarantee. 6 months? They're really pushing the new age, aren't they? They're pushing us into the global new world order. This is economics. This is the environment that the Antichrist wants. So when he appears, he's the solutionist. It's a setup. It's a national and international setup. I'm going to upstage you. I'm going to block it. You blocked it. Now I'm going to block it. Tit for tat. We'll come back to that.
To do so once again.
The White House downplaying Iran's actions, saying the seizure of those ships does not violate the ceasefire.
These were not U.S. ships. These were not Israeli ships. These were 2 international vessels.
Cargo ships and oil tankers are now waiting just outside the Strait of Hormuz, unable to pass in the face of Iran's threats. An officer on one tanker tells us they won't move without safety guarantees.
I honestly cannot say what is worse. If it's the standing by here, waiting and hoping not to get hit, or the uncertainty of not knowing if the strait is open or closed.
According to the...
What a situation to be in. I'm a tanker trying to make a delivery, hoping I get insurance on my vessel in case it gets hit. I'm worried about all that. People, I'm telling you, from my research, they got people on both sides of this thing. They play the checkerboard. And I pet goat too. Let me show you a video. You guys have seen it. In I Pet Goat 2, both Bush and Obama, they dance on the checkerboard. The black and the white. This is symbolic. They control both sides, Iran and America. Don't be fooled. They both play the game. Obama standing on the same checkerboard. Don't be fooled. Let me see. Now check this out. This guy's from Chicago, Clear Value Tax. He did a video 7 days ago about stagflation, what I warned you about last night. Listen to this in time perspective.
And I just want you to know that this is what makes the situation even more serious, because we're not just talking about a domestic issue here, we're talking about a global chain reaction. Historically, stagflation is often triggered by supply shocks. And one of the most well-known examples was the oil shocks of the 1970s. When energy prices surged, inflation rose sharply, and economic growth slowed at the same time. Okay, but today's situation, it's not identical, but the mechanism is similar. A potential disruption in global energy supply leading to higher prices and slower economic growth. So I want to tell you this. Here's the bottom line. The failure of these peace talks is not just a geopolitical event. It's much more than that, because it's got the potential to impact inflation, interest rates, and the broader economy for an extended period of time. And most importantly, it increases the risk of stagflation. Like, that's where we do not want to be. So the important takeaway of what's developed over this weekend is that this isn't just about what's happening overseas. We're talking about a direct impact on Americans. It's about the consequences on prices, on interest rates, and our financial future. Now, here's my concern. If we enter into a stagflationary environment, that's very problematic because the Federal Reserve is trapped. They can't lower interest rates, they can't raise interest rates, and they not be printing money. You know, that's ideally speaking. However, they're currently printing about $40 billion a month, but
they're printing over $40 billion per month. And Trump talking about firing Jerome Powell. He's tying his hands. I'm not pro-Federal Reserve, I'm just saying. Trump want to blame everybody, but it's what he's doing which will give you the effect that they want. And shame on the news not breaking it down. Now, in the meantime, I got up around 1:30 in the morning and Redacted had a guy on, Owen Schroyer. Now, I don't agree with everybody, but this made a lot of sense. This coincided with what I've been saying about Trump and Kushner, the plan that they got to make all this money, and even Trump's sons.
The original question. As all of this is going on, as the administration has taken a detour, as Trump likes to call it, that's a nice way of putting it. I don't know if the people that feel betrayed by him would put it so kindly. As all of this is happening, what do we see? We see that, yes, Kushner is out here apparently enriching himself beyond most Americans' wildest imaginations. There's some rumor swirling that Lutnick's firm Cantor Fitzgerald is profiting massively off of this tariff deal. Now, they've denied it, so there's kind of some back and forth with these claims. The point is, we're all sitting here living, you know, pretty humble lifestyles, let's say. The American dream, the American lifestyle, it's not getting any better for the average American. Most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and Trump was supposed to be our guy. Trump was supposed to be our guy that was changing this and finally draining the swamp, building the middle class back up. And it turns out it's quite the opposite. And so Kushner is kind of just one example, I think, of this, maybe the biggest, clearest example, because he's in there every day. He's part of this envoy. He has massive influence. Now he wants to make a bunch of money on a deal that they're going to have in Palestine, which we all know the issues with that. So to me, it's just another sign, another symptom that this administration is not what we voted for. And if you do want to do the compare and contrast,
you can't even compare it to Biden. This guy is saying that from his stats, the Trump family has made 10 times as much money as the Biden family. Here's your current debt clock. 39 trillion in debt and counting. How much debt has America incurred since 2026? $39 trillion, like I just showed you. And since January of this year, $696 billion. That's Trump alone. I took 696 times 3. At the end of the year, we'll add another $2 trillion, $8 billion to the debt. That's Trump alone. I don't want to hear nothing about Biden. How much is the United States paying per day for the war? Between $1 to $2 billion. The U.S. national debt increased in 2025 by how much? Last year's debt increased between 2.17 and 2.2 trillion last year alone. Trump just by itself. How many government contracts has Trump family received? 2026, Trump, $735 million in U.S. federal contracts the Trump family received. $620 million in loans. $4 million in Army contracts. Trump Jr. $735 million capital portfolio. All you do is Google it. Trump and his sons and Kushner. While we're barely making it and have a crisis in Iran and a crisis in our mailbox and our purses and our wallets, Trump is making money hand over fist. And they're not talking about it. How many business deals and government contracts has Jared Kushner received? $3 billion just right there. Another $2 billion in the business deal. What's the fee for the Board of Peace? Trump is the executive of the Board of Peace. To join it, it's going to cost you $1 billion. What are they doing with it? Well, they're saying they're using it to make peace in the future. What if it's a real estate deal? Benjamin Netanyahu, Marco Rubio, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, all these people are on the Board of Peace. Google it. They're destroying the country. Take a screenshot. They're destroying the country as they build a new world order, in my humble opinion. I pray you appreciate the work. God bless.